All right, Ricky, I'm in the freezer. Hurry up, I don't like being cold.
Just hang in there, man. I'll have some warm stuff for you when you get hot chocolate, whatever.
Is the clerk leaving yet or what?
Open 9 till 9. Bubbles, bit of a problem. It seems like they're opening later than they used to be. I don't know what happened. I thought I checked it, but you're going to have to be in there for a little bit longer than expected. Not that bad, not that much longer, though, okay?
Just fine, a little bit longer.
Hopefully only like 20 minutes. I don't know yet.
That doesn't make any sense, Ricky. That means they're open till 6:20. Nobody closes at 6:20.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another week of Muskies on Tap. We got Thanksgiving week here. We are -1 on host tonight. It's just going to be my brother Max and I. Brian is unable to attend tonight, which is a bummer. You know, hoping he was going to be on to talk a little bit about our little last Mott Crew Bender weekend and how that went. And we're going to touch on that a little bit here tonight. But before I talk any further, I'll introduce Max, the other co-host on here tonight. Max, how are you doing?
Doing good. Bummed that Brian's not with us tonight, but he's got a lot of stuff to take care of before he heads home for the holiday. So very understandable. We'll catch him on the next one. Had a great weekend with you guys up north. Granted, the fishing might have not been quite what we were hoping for, but that's hashtag the way she goes sometimes. So nice little brothers pod here tonight. It's late on a weeknight. Sipping on a little Lift Bridge Brewery brown ale. So really leaning into the cold November, soon to be wintry nights here. I was actually just looking at it's not bad. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10, 6.8 out of 10. Yeah. I was looking at the weather here and it appears that the end is officially near. I will be up north for Thanksgiving to do a few more days of fishing with you and looking forward to that. We'll see kind of what's still left and available to fish in our neck of the woods and probably just, do a little bit of trolling, do a little bit of sucker fishing, similar game plan as we did last week. But it appears we got about, what do you think, 5 or 6 more days? We're recording here on Tuesday night and looking at the weather, it looks like it's going to drop off pretty substantially starting pretty quickly here. And it doesn't look like it's going to let up and winter's officially here.
Right. Yeah. Lakes are definitely going to fully lock up here soon. There's probably going to be some of the big ones that are going to stay open, but man, just the nights and even the daytime temps not getting above freezing. I think it's about time to winterize the boat and just call it a season and not push our limits too hard, because this is the time of year that stuff starts to break. I know one of the two live well, what are they called? Like the switches to open and close the live well and drain them broke last year around this time on one of those blistery, windy, cold, snowy days. And I don't know if I want that to happen again on the other one. But yeah, I guess maybe if you want to dive in quick on how our weekend went with Brian, you and myself this past weekend. I know we were able to hit the over on fish that Vegas ever so graciously gave us, the 1.5 fish. We did not hit the over on big fish, so yet again we did not cover both for all of the parlay bettors out there. But well, at least we got the two. So I know, Max, you came up Thursday late. We tried a little night trolling, and a rainstorm came out of nowhere, and that took us off the water. Not to mention it was still blowing 20, 25 miles an hour, maybe more, and pitch black. So that was tough to do. We marked a big one, I think, and couldn't get her to go. And Friday,
theme of the weekend.
Yeah, I know. Friday we decided to opt out on Cisco water and we went to some relatively new water to us, but I know that they like suckers out there. And the other two times I was out there this fall, we were able to get sucker bites. Lost a few though, unfortunately, and only was able to land one. So I had a really good feeling about, buying some suckers and having them get chewed on day one. And we went all of Friday with just really nothing. No sucker pickups, really no sucker lookers, and just ended up with myself losing one casting at, I think, the end of the major. It was like at 4:50, a little bit after sunset. So that was kind of a bummer. Hit me at an awkward timing and angle. I actually made a really bad cast at the back sucker bobber in that area, and I wasn't looking and thought I snagged up on the sucker, like, line and bobber and stuff, and ended up being that fish gnawing on that bait for probably a second too long. And it didn't compute in my brain what happened, and it was too late. That was unfortunate.
Yeah, we were blessed with some great weather that day. So it was fun chilling out there, just enjoying chatting. We had our dad come out and meet us. So good day on the water overall. I mean, anytime you can get a 40-45 degree day with low wind and sun, which was pretty much our weather all weekend. I don't know what to really attribute the slow bite to. I know, like we had mentioned on the last podcast, you had some very good days in a row leading up to new moon and a few days after new moon, and then it felt like you were on a roll. And part of me, when I was driving up Thursday night, I started thinking, how long can this hot bite continue for? And I kind of got that eerie feeling where I'm like, if it shuts off, I feel like it's gonna really shut off. And Friday about midday, I started thinking, I don't know if this kind of weather shift and pure sun and low wind is what these fish are gonna get fired up on. It just felt like, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that we had no trouble finding out where they were. It just didn't feel like any of them had any intention really to open up their mouths outside of, the few bites that we got. But I mean, we were averaging only, about an opportunity or two a day, with Sunday being no opportunities, just fish swimming around on the video game console. So,
Yeah.
Saturday we obviously went to a lake that we really like. And, I think if you want to touch on a little bit our thought process on the water we decided to do, Saturday was a good day. But again, just, relative to what the expectations were, fairly slow, I would say.
Yeah, I kind of agree, because when we got out there early, we started trolling right away because we were there well before it got above freezing, and we didn't want to exactly just sucker fish right away and really not be able to cast. Or if we did, we probably would have screwed up the reels for the whole day until it got warm again. And we're kind of looking at the trolling in the morning as either a bonus fish because there was no moon going on that morning, or a time to look for bait and kind of just key in on some very specific areas and where we're going to sucker fish and cast. And I think out of the gate, while we're setting up and getting to like the actual line that we wanted to go down and troll, we already marked two in like deeper mud off of the breaks. So that wasn't an awesome sign to see them kind of come up off the bottom and take a look at the lures for a minute, and then, or not even a minute, probably a couple seconds, and then go right back down. As I think we had for both of those, or at least one of them, I know we had live scope looking back at the trolling lures. So that was pretty frustrating, but we took pretty much a stroll around, damn near the whole lake before we kind of got to this rocky area, like rock bars and rock points, and rolling right between a rock bar and a point. The one down rod goes off, and that fish we got on I just picked it up from TRO. It's a Legend perch bait jointed, heard good things about them. Looked great right when I got it a couple of weeks ago, and really was thinking it was going to get a fish by ice up, and so I was pretty stoked on that one getting a bite. And good call, Max, for picking that one because that was his rod of choice. We all had, our baits on the one rod we had, and that's the one that went off. And I think we got that going just a little under 3 miles an hour. I think we're going at a decent clip. Nothing crazy. It wasn't super windy at that point. And put up a good fight. It hit the rod that I have mono filament line set up on, and like a medium heavy rod, and that's the old round reel on that one. So I know Max said it was fairly big when he picked up the rod, and it might have been fooled a little bit by the stretch in the line, but that happens. That happened to me earlier this fall when I caught a nice one on that setup as well. I was like, oh, this is a big one. And they kind of drop in size a little bit as you get them closer to the boat. That kind of happens always with trolling, but there's the big ones are when about halfway through bringing back to the boat, they stay down, or at least they thrash on the surface, and you can, see how really big they are.
You want to what's the thought process behind throwing mono on that one rod?
Trying to stand out and be different. I don't know. We've always just run braid and fluorocarbon leaders, and I know it was just like a spare reel, and I was like, we're not really using this for anything, and it's got a clicker, no line counter. I figured we would just always use it for something we weren't throwing much more than 50 feet back. And I was just like, I don't know. I've always heard about people setting up mono, and I think it's got 30-pound mono on it. And then I made a wire leader myself to kind of give it a little sing and hum in the water. And I really thought that was going to be like a game changer this fall. It's really actually only, I think it's caught two trolling fish this fall. I think I had it set up sometime in the summer, but it was after I was done doing some open water trolling in June. So I never used it again until October. And it seems to do the job. I don't know. It's something different to get out there. And yeah, I know some people that'll get like full wire line setups. I don't know. There's a lot of things you can do trolling to differentiate yourself, but that's a whole different ball game. I am not even close to being a master troller. I just do it when I can and want to and feel sometimes lazy, but I also think it's kind of underutilized up here and pretty darn effective way to catch fish. It really helped put some fish in the boat the past probably 2 to 3 weeks or so, on some days that they were not eating suckers and they weren't really eating the casting lures either. It seemed like buzzing by a trolling bait right past their face at a pretty decent speed was kind of triggering some bites, maybe when they weren't wanting to take the easy meal for some reason. I don't know. The sucker fishing has been so frustrating for me. It seems like they either just annihilate them and there's no question about it, or they won't even touch them. And then now, just as of the last 2 days, had the first time probably since maybe a year or two or more ago, a fish pick up the sucker and drop it within 6, 7, 8 seconds, which is really bizarre. You'd think once they grab it, they want it and they will start chewing on it. But man, these must have been some conditioned or smart fish or something.
Yeah. Are they evolving? Do they know the taste of metal now and decide to drop drop the suckers, or see the hooks and get eyes on them and say no thanks? I mean,
the last 2 days we're on Cisco water, so I'm wondering if they just kind of accidentally took a bite out of them and they're like, "Oh, this is not a Cisco. Yuck."
Yeah, I don't know. It's I'm sure we'll talk more about it, but I just wanted to go back quick to the wire trolling line leader setup. I was listening to the Musky Road Rules podcast with Greg Thomas today, and he was chatting with the guy's name is escaping me, but he's the the musky candies guy that caught the 59 and a
Oh,
half out of
Cullen Veters.
yeah, I think so. Yep. And he was talking about trolling with the wire, full wire setups, and yeah, kind of just interesting to hear how there's like different perspectives, and you can do different things with your setup to kind of stand out, like you were saying with the mono wire kind of setup. And yeah, I got fooled a little bit on that fish. Ended up being a nice fish, right around that 40-inch mark, fat, typical, late fall fish. But when I picked up that rod, I was thinking big things. I mean, we were on a lake that we know has some large muskies in it, and heart started thumping pretty good until I saw it, and it still gets you going. Well, put on the Instagram stories like a little cup of coffee in the morning because we were pretty tired, got up early. Long day Friday, so that was a good one to kind of get the spirits going. And thought after that, like, okay, they weren't eating yesterday. We get this fish pretty much right away in the morning on Saturday, and thought we were in for a good day. But man, oh man, just tough. I mean, another full day with no sucker eats on Saturday, countless fish coming up, looking at them, turning away. It was like we were joking around. I mean, we were about to just toss the suckers on shore and maybe throw the live scope in the water because it was just getting to that point where it was like, what are we doing out here? Brian did manage to catch, a smaller fish casting on the same bait that that legend perch bait that I caught, the one trolling on. And just it just is what it is. I mean, I think sometimes in the fall it just feels like, these muskies, when they don't necessarily need to eat or feel the need to eat, they're really hard to get to trigger and actually get a bite. You're not really getting follows, and without the live scope, you could probably get pretty just kind of down in the dumps, like throughout the day. It just feels like the lake is kind of dead at times when you're out there. I mean, it's a fun time of year to be out there, but the weather, we had weather that never really changed. It stayed pretty consistent all day. And, like in the summer, like early fall, feels like, you kind of can feel the windows open up throughout the day, whether there's clouds starting to come in or maybe a wind pickup or a change or a front moving in, you just kind of get that sense like, oh, I need to go back on our spots where we know there's fish, or you see fish, you're moving fish throughout the summer and the early fall. It gets into these late fall periods, and it's just like, you're just waiting for a bite. And when it never comes, it just is a little bit demoralizing. But nonetheless, still a fun day Saturday. And then Sunday, you can touch on what our decision was and kind of what happened, but big swing, and didn't pan out, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think, oh man, I know that on Saturday it maybe was not quite up to the expectations that we had on the lake that we went to. I mean, getting that trolling fish was awesome, but the fact that we went from that to putting the suckers in, and I think going through that whole entire spot where we got that trolling fish without even having a single look on a sucker, that was pretty rough. Like, I didn't expect it to be that bad. And that was the lake we for sure decided that we wanted to go to Saturday prior to the weekend. And after the day, it was just kind of up in the air on if we want to, I don't know, not say cop out, but with that zero wind, bright sun, potentially going to a lake with a little bit, darker water, more mouths to get after, getting the baits in front of more fish, or going to our original plan and going to trophy clear water. And we ended up deciding just sticking with the trophy clear water. It's just like we're saying, that's why we're up there. I mean, that's what I know Brian was saying. He's like, I'm here. I'd rather beat my head against the wall on a trophy lake than do that to a lake that we probably have too high of expectations on getting a sucker bite or two and some follows and this and that. And oh boy, did we have ourselves a day with that sun and no wind. Some spots it didn't feel like we really found them, and then there were some spots where I know we had multiple looking at our suckers at the same time, and nobody was really messing with our casting lures. I might have gotten a bump jigging, but it was a bait with 0 teeth marks, and after that bump there was still 0 teeth marks. So I'm thinking that these stinking things are bumping them with their mouths closed. I think that happened to Brian as well out in the cast. So that was weird. That was not, I don't know. It just didn't pan out. We really swung for the fences, and I really don't regret it, because it was just one of those things where something could happen at any time, marking bait or not, or marking fish or not. I know plenty of times there's nothing on any screen, or you never pass anything on down or side image, and boom, sucker rod goes off, or way out in the cast, boom, you get hit, and you got no idea where it came from or whatnot. But to us, it just never happened. And I don't know if we can exactly account it for the weather, but I gotta say the weather did not help our causes out there on that crystal clear water.
Well, I don't want to blame Michael Hansen here, but I mean, we did a little Instagram live and he hopped on generously, and it was awesome to see him. I was happy that he came on and chatted up with us a little bit. That was fun to do that. But part of my ambition to go to that trophy-ish lake on Sunday was because they're 2 hours to the west of us, and I knew they were fishing trophy clear water, and they were getting bites to happen in the same type of weather. So just figured it was doable. It's a lake we've had success on in the past. And again, it was a day, when we had success. Granted, it was during the full moon, but the weather was fairly similar-ish to what we were dealing with on Sunday. And, we had bites. So it could have happened. I think it's just, it's musky fishing, and some days it works and some days it doesn't. And, I think this weekend was a good like little slice of just, a reminder of what can happen when you go out there and try for big fish. You hear all these stories, of Tom Gelb up here in northern Wisconsin going 25, 26 days in a row without a bite, and then catching, a 50-pounder. And that's just kind of what it is. Like, we've talked about the northern Wisconsin fishery, and for big fish, when you go after them, they're here, but they're just really difficult to catch. And I think that's what makes them more, not like more special than catching a big fish anywhere else, but it is very difficult. And there's a reason why not many, 49 plus, 50 plus inch fish get caught in Vilas County every year, because they're just, tough to get to go. And I could bet you a few of those fish that looked, at our suckers on Sunday. I mean, if you looked at them on live scope, they looked substantial. And giants. I mean, they were not small fish, and we've kind of got to the point where, we can tell on the live how big the fish are ish. But yeah, I mean, we found them, and they were all just kind of in that classic fall pattern, nothing crazy. We weren't doing anything that nobody else does. I mean, we're doing everything that everybody else does. We're fishing big, steep, breaks, diving into the deepest water. And, with the live, it's like, you can tell exactly where to hang that bait or where to put your trolling lures to contact fish. And, there's no guessing. It wasn't like, oh, or are we on fish? Are we not on fish? I mean, we were always on top of stuff. It just never happened. And yeah, that's that will, it's just, it's just the way she goes sometimes. So really fun weekend overall though. Good end of the season. I think just getting on the boat, hanging out with you guys, and hopefully you and I can sneak out after Thanksgiving for a few more days just to see if we can't get a little bit of revenge.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to do that. There should be plenty of water. There's really, I mean, as we speak it's the 21st right now of November. There's tons of lakes still open. I mean, I've driven by the bridge on the chain, Catfish and Voyager. That area right there is wide open. And that's a stained fishery. So Maybe just the tiny little lakes. I've heard some reports of some small, very small lakes are getting, locked up on some of these mornings that we're now finally getting below freezing. But we definitely have time. The weather is going to drop pretty good. I think we're going to be doing a lot of trolling. My frustration and hatred now towards suckers is growing exponentially as we speak, although they have graced us with many fish since, oh man, I think the first one in the boat was like late September. I ran them a little bit in middle September, and I think this is the first year we didn't get one in middle September. Everything was just all casting. But I don't know how many looked at suckers. I didn't run live scope again until October. And I don't know. I think trolling will be good anyways. That's been, like I said, pretty good for getting bites these past few weeks. And even some big bites too. It's not like we're just only getting small fish trolling. That's what some people say. That's definitely not true. I think you can get a big fish trolling just as much on a sucker, because I know that we've caught our fair share of 32 to 36-inch fish on suckers. And casting might be really done. I don't really think it's worth our gear on just messing up our reels and rods on 30, 29-degree days or something like that, just for like an hour. So, but I feel good. I've been seeing piles and piles of fish and bait on the steep break still, just like normal, right next to cribs. Any hard to soft bottom transition, they're just, all the fish are, like Max said, they're hanging out where everybody knows and thinks they should be. The feedback is just going to be less, and the bite windows are ridiculously tight. Even if you think you feel a bite window coming on, it might be 9 a.m., 12:30. I mean, still the 3 to 4 p.m. has been pretty darn consistent. I think that's pretty normal though for the fall on kind of peak heat right up to sunset, that time frame, moon or not. That just seems to always get a good bite. Make sure you're on your best spot at that time, leading up to sunset. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it as much as it's now drawing towards the end. I'm pretty happy with the way this entire season went, I would have to say, with the whole successes of PMTT, lots of successful guide trips, lots of first muskies, lots of muskies in general put in the boat. I mean, I think we just put a good hurting on them overall this year, as much as our frustrations came about here and there. But I would have to say we really never hit too bad of a slump. I know in the past we've had our, weeks or maybe even longer of just really bad fishing and just second guessing everything. And this year it seems like we've really been able to kind of pick back up after maybe a bad day or something like that, and switch waters and switch tactics and becoming a little bit more versatile in our ways of fishing, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's been a great season for you. First season, I would say, really diving into the guiding full time. I know you'll never say it, so I'm probably going to brag for you here. But yeah, I mean, you hit some, goals of yours this year, and were able to put over 150 muskies in the boat, and that's good shit. And I think the doing this podcast has been a lot of fun, with kind of talking through it each week. And I almost feel like, I don't know if you agree with me, but I almost feel like it's, kind of similar to when people talk about like recording themselves and filming their musky fishing and kind of going back and looking and learning. This podcast has almost kind of been nice, like therapeutic in a way, where we've been able to kind of talk and debrief, and almost kind of helps get the juices flowing on, what to do the next week, and kind of talk about what we did right, what we did wrong. And I think it's helped a little bit, with just kind of getting creative and finding ways to stay stay on top of fish because, yeah, like you said, in the past we've been consistently fishing now up north, most weekends prior to you guiding, for a very long time. And we've always had terrible stretches. And like you said, this year was the first time where it felt like we could kind of pivot. And that's exciting to me, like getting to that point where you can kind of, get creative and stay on top of fish because you kind of have to. I mean, the bite's always changing. And like you said, now we're into this late fall period where things are so predictable. I mean, you can pull up your Navionics and, there's a rock point that drops into 30 feet of water. And then on the other side of that's a rock bar that comes up to 10 feet and there's a trough in the middle. Yeah, there's going to be a fish there. I mean, it's like, it's like, all right. I mean, it's a fun time of year, but it is a frustrating time of year. And I just from DMing with people on the Mott page, I think other people have kind of shared that sentiment with suckers. And I don't know. I can't put my finger on why this year has been more difficult than other years. Maybe it is because we're hitting a little bit bigger water. Maybe there's more of a plethora of food to go around that they're, not as inclined to just eat the free meal because they have so many options. Or like you're saying, we're fishing lakes with some sort of Cisco base, but it's just, it's been interesting. I don't know if there's a reason behind it. Maybe there's just not, and that's okay. And maybe next year it'll be like totally flipped and suckers will be the dominant player and maybe trolling will be less of a factor. You don't know. And that's kind of why you got to do it all. And I mean, if I were to kind of debrief on like a day on why I think you decide to do trolling at the beginning for sure, and then hang suckers and cast if you're able to, is it just feels like a good way to kind of cover water to start the morning and see if you can mark some fish on side. Because a lot of times, it feels like if you can find one, there's going to be multiple fish in that area, even if you're not marking them on your electronics. Then you can just kind of circle back and, drag the suckers through that stretch. And a lot of times, like besides the one fish on Saturday morning where, you either catch one trolling or you see one trolling, you go back and you fish that spot with suckers and it's like there's 4 or 5 muskies there in a pretty much like a playpen type area. And it's cool, but if they don't eat, doesn't really mean much.
Yeah, no. And that again boils down to such a day-to-day bite. It seems like, which is why I bring the trolling rods every day, the casting rods every day, and the sucker rods every day when I have the suckers. I mean, I think there's only like a small stretch in there where I didn't have any suckers and I really only just trolled. But yeah, still it's weird. I know there's like a 2-day or maybe 3-day stretch where I trolled out of like moon windows and stuff and only casted and sucker fished during moon, and we got 0 bites in the moon and all the bites trolling. And it's just like I don't know, where if we were maybe doing the opposite and we trolled during moon and we sucker fished and cast outside of moon, would it have been the same? Chances are we probably would have gone to the same areas, but like, I don't know, is it the fact that we're covering water and just had the baits in the strike zone and waited until a window opened up and hopefully ran a bait across the fish's face? Or, playing your cards with, slowly moving with suckers and casting, which you gotta go, at a half mile an hour or maybe even slower, and you're not covering a lot of water, but you gotta be on them. Like if you're in a dead zone, you can be really in a dead zone. I've definitely figured that one out. And sometimes you realize it way too late because of how short the windows are. And sometimes you're able to make quick moves and quickly pick up. But usually the goal is once you put the suckers in the water, you want to keep them in the water as long as possible and connect the dots in as many spots or places as you can without lifting up and moving spots, because it's the time of year of fishing, less than you can count on one hand how many spots a day you're going to be able to fish, because you're going to realize you're like, oh, I'm going to go fish that spot and sucker fish it. You get done with it and 2 hours went by and it's already midday.
Yeah.
It's like, Oh, that sun looks kind of low right now. Like, yeah, it's afternoon now.
I know, it's so weird to look down and be like, oh, it's 3 p.m. and the sun's about to set. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this day went by so fast. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's the pros and cons of fall fishing with the limited amount of suns. You have like the day just goes by so fast, but you're able to get back and have dinner with dinner at a reasonable time and get to bed at a reasonable time. But geez, those when you're ending your day at 4:30 or 5:30, like it just it goes by quick. So yeah.
Mhm.
Well, do you have anything else to add on the fall fishing? Because I since we last recorded, the full PMTT schedule came out, and I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on it. Well, it's just
All
you and
right.
I and no Brian here, and chat a little bit about it because I know we've kind of talked internally, but I feel like it'd be good to just air it out right now. So if you want to kind of run through what we got cooking next year, that'd be great.
Yep. As of right now, the PMTT came out with the full trail schedule, and we got Cave Run per usual last weekend in April. Definitely looking forward to getting back to there. Ebb and flow, had some really good luck there for this year, and really excited to bring Max down there and show him that different planet that exists down there that's just completely crazy, and a type of lake that doesn't even look like there should be muskies in there, and yet there are. Then we're gonna go back to Madison. So the first two PMTT trail legs are carbon copies of this year, and definitely looking forward to that. I enjoyed Madison at times. I can't say I fully loved it. Not always a super big fan of fisheries that have wakeboarders and stuff like that, going around you on a Saturday when it's super sunny. And because that kind of gives me almost like PTSD of fishing over here on the Eagle River chain in
Yeah.
certain summer days that are even just like, oh, it's a Wednesday and there's like 150 people in this section of the lake. That's nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to get down to Cave Run. I mean, I know I was really sad to miss that event this year, and hopefully I can redeem myself for my absence this last spring. And I know, pretty much by the end of January, I'm already to get back out on the boat and musky fish. So that's going to be like a really nice week to look forward to. That'll kind of help get us through the winter months up here, knowing that we have that to go to at the end of April. I've heard enough about it where I feel like I'm gonna like it. It just seems like me, I love fishing new water. I love going to new places and doing all that deal. So I'm really looking forward to getting down there. It's going to be a lot of fun regardless of what happens, and should be like a good little kickoff to the season. And then, yeah, Madison, I mean, last year, Saturday was beautiful weather for, hanging out. As I think I mentioned on the podcast in our recap, it's like, we had, we battled, everyone was battling everything on Saturday. It was 85 degrees, pure sun. Every person out there, jet skis, wakeboarders, everyone was using the lake, having a good time. We had chicks on the dock blasting Taylor Swift. It was just
T Swift.
some T Swift. And, you just kind of have to battle the elements. On top of that, you're in a metro area with a lot of recreational fishermen as well during the tournament hours. And, so yeah, it will be interesting to see. And then obviously Sunday we got, kind of blessed with some bad weather, which kept everyone else besides the, 90 odd boats that were in the tournament pretty much off the lake with, the PMTT people kind of had it to themselves. So we'll see what kind of happens this year. I think the tournament that excited to hear your thoughts on is the next one, going to Minnetonka, another very metro fishery.
In August too.
In August. A little bit worried about water temps. Be curious to see how that goes. I mean, I know it's a pretty deep, clear lake, but man, we've had some really hot summers here in Minneapolis. And, I live probably 25 minutes away from the body of water. I've never fished it, which is kind of crazy. I mean, I've been out there hanging out and kind of seen the buffoonery that happens on Minnetonka and been a part of it at times. But yeah, it's I feel like that's going to be a whole different animal in August. And curious to hear your thoughts on the selection.
I guess. Oh man, I don't know. I'm obviously looking forward to it because it's a new body of water. But man, if I was gonna go to Tonka, that's probably the last month I probably would have picked to go. I guess maybe next to July. But oh my gosh, I don't know. I think that one's gonna be an absolute grind and shit show all combined into one, and just see what we can get out of that body of water. I've heard that it's very clear, super deep weeds, or weeds in a good amount of the lake. And I don't know, I got nothing really else to say. I don't know anything about it. I just know that it's one of the most heavily populated and busiest bodies of water in the summer, and we get to go fish it on a Friday and Saturday.
Enough said.
Out of enjoyment.
I think it's going to be a mental grind. I'm pretty excited to get. Can't wait to get those texts from Jeremy pre-fishing. I can only imagine how that's going to go.
He won't even be fishing. He'll just be
yelling at people.
And, yeah.
Because I mean, it's going to be a test of patience. That's for sure. I mean, it's it's a big body of water, but with that many boats out there, I feel like it gets small quick. I mean, I've been out there and, most of the main sections are so just kind of crowded with boat traffic. So I don't know if it's going to be one of those scenarios where we're going to have to try to find a way to get, outside of the crowd, if that's even possible, or just battle the elements and try to grind out a fish or three, But yeah, it should be interesting. I mean, I guess I'm a little bit excited that I wouldn't say I'm excited. I mean, I like traveling and going to different places. So, it'll be a little bit less, it'll be a little easier on the travel budget, I suppose. Because if we make it to the championship, as we mentioned our last podcast with Clayton, they're going to the Eagle River chain. And wow. I was a little bit shocked to hear that for the championship. I can't lie.
A little bit too. Yeah, I was not really expecting that. And as of now, and I think probably set in stone, it's just going to be the Eagle River chain as well. Because obviously in the championship, it's only going to be 30, 40, or I think they max out at maybe 50 boats or something like that, depending on how many fish are caught. I mean, it all depends if it's a tough year or not. I know this year was a tough year for numbers, and I want to say, what was it, 29 boats made it to the championship, something like that. It might have been like 30 or 31, but I think only 29 ended up going. And I think in years past, it's at least 40-ish, on a typical year.
Mm-hmm.
And really that many boats on the Eagle River chain only is not terrible at all. Once you start splitting it up between, the north and south section of the chain, it's not bad, but I don't know. I can't really talk too much on that because we got to obviously make it there first and hopefully catch a fish in one of 3 events, which I think is definitely going to be part of our goals, to make it to the championship so that we can fish our home waters. And I think that would be awesome. That'd be really cool to come back here in late September on the chain.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting tournament, that's for sure. I really hope we make it there. We've historically done, for the most part, average to bad on the Eagle River chain during tournaments outside of the PMTT event that was there. So I guess hopefully we can, maybe get some of that magic if we're there. But should be an interesting event. A lot of people that fish the trail are familiar with the Eagle River chain, and there's going to be really no secret on what the what the playbook is there, and got a feeling that putting a lot of those anglers on that body of water in late September, if the weather pans out, could make for a very exciting. I will say this: it could make for a very exciting championship, because really at that point, like, you could almost film it like a bass tournament. I mean, no lead is going to be safe up until really when that when that clock strikes, 1 p.m. or whatever on Sunday, because as we know, you can double and triple up there in short order if you find a stretch of shoreline where they're going, or whatever. So
yeah, they pack up like crazy out there in the chain.
Yeah, so I mean, it could be a really fun event to do some live. I think because they're doing some live leaderboard updates next year with that app.
Oh yeah, they have that new app. That'll be very interesting to see how that works. I don't know if people are digging that change or not. I guess don't mind it.
Well,
but I've never used it before.
Anytime you introduce any sort of technology into the fishing industry, it's never going to be received with 100% approval.
Oh, wait, really? Dang, I guess everyone is just so accepting these days in the fishing industry.
Yeah, I mean, everyone agrees on everything, obviously,
Yeah, there's no opinions or anything, or
especially with technology. So yeah, that'll be really cool to kind of be able to see that, because I know, like, sometimes we'll be on text threads with people during the tournament, and sometimes people say they caught one or if they didn't catch one or whatever, but now it's like you gotta log your fish, and you will know if Clayton and Nick caught one, or if Jeremy and Trevor caught one, or any of our other friends start popping off. It'd be kind of fun to watch, and hopefully it won't be too distracting. I feel like, I'm
gonna have to turn your phone off. I'm gonna probably make you turn your phone off.
I know. You know me, I'm a big fan of the live updates from Tim at like 11 a.m. on the first day.
Yeah.
That's always the best. So yeah, no, it's gonna be a good season. Be curious to I keep saying I'll be curious, because I just am. I mean, I think it's gonna provide some interesting results, especially with doing Madison back-to-back years. I feel like people are going to kind of probably, it'll be interesting to see what people do. Like, if they'll kind of stick to what worked. I mean, it seemed like people were pretty open with what was going on and what people had success with there. And it's not a body of water. Like, okay, so let me back up. The crazy thing about Madison is it's two big bowls, essentially. So you can't hide. There's no secret bite, really, I feel like. I mean, unless I was missing out on something. Like, we obviously were not quite fishing in the same areas as other people, but like, people could see where we were. I mean, it wasn't like the Chippewa flowage where, we went hours without seeing other tournament boats at times, or even on the Eagle River chain where, you're separated by all these different lakes where you might not see, people. Granted, these are large lakes in Madison, but if you're on Waubesa, you can see where people are at. So
we saw the day one leaders getting followed by like 10 boats. There's like a parade of them going all to like the same spot, a dozen or more boats. It was just like almost too obvious. So yeah, I'll definitely be curious on how that goes for sure.
Yeah, so I don't know if Madison results are going to be better this year, because people probably kind of took what they learned last year and will apply it to this year, or if it'll be tougher for people that maybe did good last year if the bite changes. Because, like, I know for us, if we pre-fish, we're just going to be hitting our spots that we had success at this last year, and then kind of go from there. If they're still there, they're still there. And if they're not, then you got to pivot and figure something else out. But I mean, that was the one tournament where I felt like when we went to the registration, it was like everybody was like, oh yeah, we're on fish. It's like,
Yeah, there still just like wasn't that many fish caught, and it was all saved by, the Lajewski giant 50 plus, and I think it was Gillich with another 50 plus, and tons of upper 40s on Sunday. Not saying that those like saved the tournament, but man, there was really not that many fish caught, and those fish really saved that tournament from being, not that many caught. I think there was, man, I'd have to go look back at the numbers, but I'm pretty sure with only 29 boats at the Chippewa Flowage, there's more fish caught there than all 3 tournaments, even though obviously it's 2.5 days. But like, yeah, I thought it was notorious for the Chippewa to be
difficult,
just harsh, just a total, biatch to everybody. And no, I don't know. There was definitely some eye-opening things that we saw this year, for sure. And I would say being a part of what happened on Sunday at Madison was one of the craziest things ever. Seeing all those big fish caught in one day with such a giant weather switch, going from very, very hot and sunny the day before to wearing pretty much as many layers as we brought. Giant northwest winds, heavy rains, and cold. Like that was a snap. That was very similar to what happened in PMTT Eagle River last year when you were wearing that down coat on Sunday in late June up here in Eagle River.
Yeah.
And like boots, and yeah, it was crazy.
I think it's the best thought experiment of, sometimes these big fish just aren't accessible on certain weather days. And then when things change and the flip switches, it's like they just are. All of a sudden they just appear. I mean, they didn't pack their bags and, travel to the lake and hang out for the day and eat and then leave. Like they're in there. But yeah, I mean, you went from Saturday in Madison where all, limited fish were caught, not that many big fish, to all of a sudden Sunday, it was like, we got that one 44 3/4, but looking back at film, watching a few of those other fish porpoise near our boat, they were all mid to upper 40-inch class fish that were pushed up super shallow and, just accessible. So it's just funny. Like sometimes before you even hit the water, your fate might be more determined than, maybe you can, you just things that are out of your control that you just kind of funny. So yeah, I mean, that was again one of the cooler things about tournaments is you really kind of get a feel for what's going on because there's so many good anglers out there fishing. But yeah, that Madison deal was probably one of the craziest things I've ever seen, where it was like bad on Saturday and then the flip switched and it was like all the big fish in the lake just decided to munch.
Yeah, that was crazy. I'll definitely be curious if that goes on again this year. There's always the chance of big weather switches during the tournaments, and I think maybe like I've said in the other podcast, it's man, I can't tell you how many times you see day one somebody hammers fish, weather switches, day two you don't see them come in with the fish, and you just know that, man, those weather switches can really, really put a damper on people's patterns, whether they're good or not, and you got to know when to make those switches. And I think really those people that win them end up either knowing exactly when and where to switch, or they are on too many fish that they can't even handle all of them, and they just get them all in. They found their little secret patch of fish, and we know that can happen, but that also, it doesn't happen every single day or at every single lake. And yeah, man, tournament fishing is nuts. It's just a different ball game. And it's crazy how much, I mean, this would be a whole nother rabbit hole. It's just crazy how much different we fish too. It's like we get back up north and we're done tournament fishing. It's like, oh yeah, we can like sit down and, take a drink of water and have a sandwich right now instead of trying to eat while we're flying at as fast as our tiller can go across the lake on
35.
rollers. Yeah, a whopping 35 and a quarter or something like that. I don't know. Two people. Gets the job done though.
Yeah, I feel like the same thing will happen at Minnetonka this year, where it's going to be so weather dependent on how that tournament's going to go. Because with it being super crowded, clear water, I just feel like you're going to be praying for either a big front, weather, movements throughout days. You're just praying for not stagnant 92-degree weather. I mean, that's like,
Yeah,
I think
no,
at the end of the
please
day,
no.
what we're just really hoping and praying that doesn't happen. Cause I mean, I was here a lot this summer, and like, I think I was talking to the guru on one of our podcasts, and I was just like, dude, I just feel like this summer has been relentless in Minneapolis. I mean, every day is 90 degrees and sunny. And then if a rainstorm came in, it would come in for 15, 20 minutes or whatever, and then leave. And I'm a little bit apprehensive about fishing Tonka in August, but hopefully we'll be pleasantly surprised. And once we get out there, maybe it won't be as intimidating or as difficult as we thought. And if it is, then it is what it is, and everyone's going to have to face those conditions. And so I'll tell you this, somebody's going to end up catching fish, and somebody's going to win the tournament. So, I feel like it's a mindset thing where you just got to believe that you can do that, whether it's a little bit of a false belief or not. You still got to tell yourself that it's doable, because no one, you can't hand a check to somebody with no one catches a fish. Like, it's gonna happen. So be curious. Let's just be interested to see how that one goes.
Yep. All right. So I think that's probably a wrap on a little PMTT talk about next year and all that, and definitely looking forward to that. But I think we can wrap it up here tonight, and like to for sure thank all the listeners for tuning in to another week of Muskies on Tap. Appreciate all of you. Appreciate all the supporters and buying some merch, and appreciate all of the people that I took out this summer, and especially those that actually, listened to the podcast and found my guide service through that. So thank you all, and want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, a safe rest of their gun season in Wisconsin, deer hunting. And I know it goes to muzzleloader season, and I don't know how many people get out for that, but I hope everyone's had a successful start to the hunt, and for those still out, hoping that you can close it out here, just as much as I'm trying to really close out the season with a dandy. We were able to boat a nice fish today with good friend Clayton, who was just on the podcast last week. We got out today, and he got a really nice fish, super rounded out, fatty, a little over 40 inches. And man, that thing, he set the hook, and he said he thought he was into a log because it kind of just sat there, probably gnawing on the mag dog. And it was after, I think it was right after, oh man, it might have been like, just looked back at the footage, I think about 4 pumps before he set the hook into that fish, quote unquote, I think I said, I'm starting to not like this lake again, or something like that. I say something ridiculous like that, do, typical complaining, and then the fish hits the bag, and it's like, oh, never a doubt. They were always here. They were always going to bite today. We knew what we were doing this whole time. These fish are fired up now, and it took till 4 p.m.
There you go. What, I'm looking forward to seeing that footage. But real quick before we head out here, a few last things, some housekeeping items. First, we're very excited for the next few weeks. We got some really great guests coming on for you guys. We're very fortunate to connect with some people that have been doing some unbelievable things in the muskie industry for quite some time now. So really looking forward to that, and bringing you guys some great interviews here coming up as the season, comes to an end. We're hoping to still kind of keep this thing going. We're going to do our best. Trust us. We're trying. We're a relatively new podcast, so if anyone's listening to this and wants to reach out to us and just kind of either give us suggestions or, we'll be happy to kind of listen and, take notes of what you guys are saying. A few people have reached out, so we've been thankful for that. But we'll end here, Gus. I am curious as to what you are most looking forward to this upcoming Thanksgiving, food wise, anything, really anything.
I would have to say
drinks. What are you looking for?
Man, you're naming off a lot of good things here. Man, I would say just getting out in the boat again for a good last couple of musky outings with you, me, and Dad, and just trying our hand at freezing our asses off and maybe getting one of those giant northern Wisconsin fish, and then going back home and enjoying a very nice old fashioned and leftover stuffing and gravy, mashed potatoes, turkey, cranberries, probably some sort of overly delicious dessert, I would have to assume. Too many good things.
Coming back from a day of freezing your ass off to a fire, an old fashioned, and Thanksgiving leftovers. Sign me the frig up. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all that. I'm just looking forward to staying out in the boat as much as I can, and it's all a blessing, and hoping for, like I said, one last fish here and just closing out the season and on a good note. I think last year the final day before winterization was a 3 for 4 trolling outing with my dad, so it's going to be hard to beat that, I would have to say. And maybe we could.
Well, I mean, the stars are kind of realigning. We're getting a true cold snap, which is always good in the fall. We got full moon coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
So everything that's similar to last year before we ended the season, you and I and Dad got a nice one, and then you guys obviously crushed it trolling the final day of the season. So hoping that repeats itself this year, but if not, it's been a great year and very thankful for all the fish that did find their way into our boat to take a picture with us. Shout out those fish.
Shout out
muskies. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'll be thankful to just get out on the boat again, try to keep this thing going as much as we can, because when winter hits and the ice comes on the water, it's all done. So we'll see how it goes, but it's been a great year and couldn't be happier with how things panned out. So I'm content, although we do have one more chance. So let's give it our all and see what happens.
Let's do it.
All right, man. Well, good little recap there, and shout out Brian. Sorry you guys couldn't be graced with his wonderful takes, and I'm sure he would have probably brought some good entertainment tonight that we can never fill that void. So anytime Brian's not on here, we're always sad, but he'll be back on next week, and I'm sure he'll come in hot.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I don't think I'll be able to do a nice outro like he's always able to, really send everybody away on a high note. But
all right, everybody.
Anyways, all right, oh man, I can't even speak that fast. All right, everybody.
Can't do it. Just cut it.
Can't do it. Cut it. Peace.
Peace.